going on, everybody? It is a Thursday, April 23rd. Hope you're doing all right. Hope you're staying safe. So, going to bring you an update on the whole comic book collapse, particularly with AT&T, because AT&T just had an earnings call, and it's not very good. You know, I see a lot of people little iffy on if AT&T would actually get rid of the great DC Comics. How could they do that? They make so much money. They don't make very much money. I'm going to show you how much money they actually make and contribute to WarnerMedia. It's not very much. It's low. And this was when things were good. Well, as good as they could be last year. But I want to start off here. New York's Forbidden Planet raising money to stay open. I guess this is a pretty big, iconic comic book shop in New York City. They've started a GoFundMe to try to stay open, which, you know, is nice. Hopefully, you know, I hate to see them close, so hopefully they can get that going and stay open. But this is the big problem, is these shops are running out of money. I saw the other day a lot of these loan programs that have been pushed to try to save small businesses are already running out of money. So, you know, I do think you're going to see probably like 30 to 40% of comic book shops shutter if we don't get things open back up. If things are shut down until the fall, which would be disastrous, and if they go to the fall, I don't know. I don't know how long this stuff's going to stay like this. Nobody knows. I'm hoping things open back up. I would open it all back up now if it was my decision, but, you know, everyone's playing politics right now, which is the unfortunate thing. So, more shops are getting close to shutting down. A couple have already shut down. And I know that they're doing that whole charity thing right now. But the funny thing about that charity is not even all of that money goes to comic book shops. I think your boy Zach did a video and said only like 35% or something goes to actual comic book shops. And the rest goes to the actual charity. I mean, why don't you guys just get, like, everyone's doing these. First off, I know a lot of you might not even know about this because you're probably blocked on Twitter. But why don't all these creators just raise money and give the shops money directly or something? It seems kind of strange. You're only giving so much of it to comic book shops when the whole reason to raise this money was to give them to comic book shops. I don't know. But anyway, I wanted to pull this back up just to kind of prove the point again on DC Comics not being valuable. The only value DC Comics has to AT&T WarnerMedia is the fact that it's storyboarded concepts, and you can pretty much just throw a comic book in the lap of an executive and say, this is what our movie would look like. This is what our TV show would look like. That's it. AT&T does not give a damn about comic books or the comic book industry. They bought WarnerMedia for one reason, because they want to get into the media brand and they want to do a streaming service. HBO Max is looking like it's going to be a big competitor to Netflix. I think it's going to be a legit competitor. They have a lot of content on there, but we'll get to that. They don't give a damn about comic book shops. They see comic book shops in the comic book market as fat. And we know pretty much a good estimate on what AT&T actually brings to the table when it comes to Warner Brothers. We have it right here. So the Motley Fool did this article a little while ago. And actually, it was, when did they do this? So March 4th. Now, keep in mind, I want you to realize this. The numbers here are what they actually make. These are based on when comics were selling, or at least as selling as good as they could back in 2019. So here's where it matters. So Warner Brothers generated $14.4 billion in revenue, or 43% of WarnerMedia's revenue and 8% of AT&T total revenue last year. Within that total, Warner's Games and Other segment, which includes DC Comics, video games, and other products, but excludes its TV and film properties, generated $2 billion in revenue. Based on the aforementioned estimate of $1.1 billion in industry sales, in 2018, the industry's flat growth over the past 5 years, and Diamond Publishing's report that DC controlled 29% of the comic book market in 2019, we can estimate that DC's publishing unit generated about $300 million in revenue last year. This accounts for just 0.2% of AT&T's annual revenue, So it doesn't really matter if the company keeps or sells the business. Keeping the publishing unit would arguably make more sense, since it would allow AT&T to maintain firm control over the characters in print, TV, and film. So they estimate that they won't sell them. And I don't think that they'll sell off DC Comics. I don't think they'll do that. I think they'll just close it or keep it so small and just have them do digital books for $1. They could just do digital first books or something, sell them that way. Or they could just license them. Now, they say they won't. That's true. They might not do that. But keep in mind, they're only bringing in 0.2% of AT&T's annual revenue. Okay, they bring $300 million to the table. That's it. What if that starts going negative? What if they start wasting money? $300 million is nothing. More comic book shops close. The industry goes under. What does that $300 million turn into? This is a real thing, okay? And this article right here does a good job talking about physical copies versus digital copies. And in this article, they tell you flat out, which I think is common sense. Physical copies outweigh digital copies, okay? And that's not going to change overnight. It's not going to change overnight. Probably not anytime soon, okay? All right, so they have their digital first books. Those are like $1, okay? The quality in those books is nowhere near as good as the regular books that come out. Now, maybe that could change, but I don't know. Can you get the talent to make these books? You're going to have to slash the prices that you pay them. The comic book market just has not been conditioned to go digital. Manga readers have been, but the comic book market is conditioned for comic books in physical format. This isn't changing anytime soon. And, you're going to sit here and tell me that DC Comics isn't close to being on the chopping block? That could change the way that comic books are going right now. Article after article that's come out over the past couple of days. AT&T not backing off of $6 billion cost-cutting initiative. AT&T revenue drops 4.5% and crisis impairs outlook for 2020. AT&T's massive TV losses continue as another 900,000 customers flee. AT&T's cord-cutting problem is accelerating, and the worst may be yet to come. AT&T misses Q1 revenue target, citing the thing going on right now, and declines at WarnerMedia and pay TV unit. WarnerMedia rethinking theatrical model. AT&T COO John Stankey doesn't expect snapback recovery by exhibitors. And then we have HBO Max, which is where they have all of their eggs in that basket. But the point here is that AT&T, at least right now, they're losing a lot of money. And a lot of that money is coming from WarnerMedia and Warner Brothers. They're going to trim fat. Maybe DC Comics will be fine. Maybe they won't be fine. But I seriously just don't see them. I don't see them lasting. They're only making $300 million. And this was last year. Okay, this one was when, there were no issues. Okay? What's going on right now? Okay, I expect the comic book market, the comic book market, when all of this lifts off and things get back to whatever kind of normalcy there will be, the comic book market is going to shrink drastically, probably by at least 30%, because comic book shops are closing almost every week. Okay, that's going to affect the amount of money that DC Comics brings in. And it's just a fact. Okay, and if people are out of work, if we hit another recession from this, or God forbid a depression, one of the first things people are going to cut are luxury items like comic books. And the amount of people that read comic books aren't kids with a little bit of disposable income. It's grown men, okay? People that get laid off and stuff. That's what happens. So that $300 million could easily shrink And if the cost to run DC Comics costs more money than AT&T is worth, I don't see them keeping them. They'll license out the characters, and then that's a win-win for them because they still have books they can storyboard, and somebody else pays them to deal with the headache. Or maybe they'll just close it. Who knows? But to say that AT&T won't get rid of comics is ludicrous and silly. Okay, it's a capitalistic country. If they're not making any money, and it doesn't look like, AT&T can sit around and just soak up the losses right now, it's not crazy to me that they just flat out cut DC. I mean, they don't need the comics. They already have the rights to make movies. They already have the rights to make shows and animation. They can do all that. They don't need the comic. The comics don't make any money off of those things anyway. So that's pretty much it. I just wanted to go through and show you guys AT&T's not, well, I think they'll be okay, but they're losing money right now. And they have a lot of debt. Now, a lot of their eggs are in the HBO Max basket. And that, while HBO Now is going on, you can get that right now. HBO Max is this is the real HBO streaming service. And it launches on the 27th. A lot of good content coming in. And DC is heavily involved. They got a lot of shows. There's a Green Lantern show supposedly maybe coming. I think there really is. I think they're going to do a lot of DC comic book shows. And that'll probably be a cornerstone of their streaming service. You don't need comic books to do shows. Just don't. A lot of people might not like this, but, this is reality that we live in. And 300 million, 0.2% of all of the money that they get is nothing. And if that were to shrink down and become a negative, they're not going to keep the comic books around. I'm sorry. Anyway, that's it. Leave me your thoughts. What do you think? Do you think that they're willing to just pump money into DC Comics if they don't produce income? If they're not bringing anything to the table, do you think they'll keep DC Comics, just pump money into them to save the comic book industry, a cell phone company that bought Warner Brothers for television and video games, mostly television, so that they get into the streaming market because that's where the money is for the future of entertainment? Do you think that they're going to keep comic books around if they don't bring any money? Let me know your thoughts on that. I'd like to hear your opinions. Also, throw a like up, share the video. Make sure you still subscribe. Subscribe if you're new. Hit that notification bell, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace. Also, if you want to help support the channel, check out my Teespring store. There's a link in the description. You can find some merchandise in there that you might want to check out. Also, take a moment. Make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. There's something going on right now, and they've been unsubscribing people. So just take a second and double check on that, and subscribe if you're new.